with all this sunny economic news, it's probably a good time to bring up the fact that our debt to GDP is now 100%. In case you're wondering when the last time that happened it was World War II. So as I have explained to you many, many times, and as Carol has as well, we are a nation currently in peacetime without some major national disaster, without any of these things. And we are spending as if we're a country fighting an apocalyptic world war. What does that mean? Well, it means this can't go on. As that saying goes, that which cannot go on will not go on, this will not go on. Joining me now, author of the book, You Will Own Nothing, which is sadly apropos for where we are, Carol Roth. Carol, okay, you say debt to GDP is 100%. That doesn't really register, though. It sounds like a bunch of eco-nerd talk. What does that mean?
I actually say debt to GDP is north of 120%. Where are we getting that number from may actually be backing out some of the intergovernmental spending, but we still owe it in one way, shape, or form, so I'm not going to back it out. Basically, if you think about the amount of debt to the entire output of the country, the benchmark that, whether it's the Treasury or the IMF, where they say that becomes unwieldy is around 60, maybe 70% debt to GDP. So we are functionally 2 times as high as we should be. And normally in a country that had debt to GDP at this level, you probably see some sort of sovereign wealth crisis and, some massive implosion. Because we have the world's reserve currency and the world's trading currency, that hasn't happened yet. But people like to take the fact that it hasn't happened and then say that, well, that's sort of proof that it will never happen. And that just isn't the case. Everybody, the IMF, the CBO, the Treasury, the Fed, Jamie Dimon, billionaires, everybody said this is an unsustainable fiscal path. But what they don't like to say, Jesse, is, okay, it's an unsustainable fiscal path. What are we going to do to fix it? And if we have the ability to fix it, do we really have the political will to fix it? And I think that is the discussion point that needs to be had. Do we really believe if we're able to thread this very delicate needle in terms of growing the economy, reducing some of the government spending, and trying to do that in a way that doesn't cause inflation or doesn't have any other side implications, does anybody have the political will or the competence to get that done?
Okay, well, no. Obviously, the answer to that question is no, not to put too fine a point on it. So since the answer to that question is no, the Democrats want the country to collapse, the Republicans don't have the guts to stop it, where are we going?
So I wish I had the crystal ball that could perfectly predict the timing, that could perfectly predict the path. All we have are these rhyming benchmarks, what has happened in other countries when this has happened previously. One of the things that happens anytime there is a big financial sea change tends to be a massive war. That's what happened to England before us and the Dutch before the English, is that's what encountered the financial sea change and was sort of this last ditch effort to try to figure out how we're going to have, some sort of resetting of the financial stakes. And I think that is realistically one of the things on the table. Another thing that is on the table is something that we have been seeing over the last few years, which is just rampant inflation, right? We've seen that over and over again. And instead of letting the economy go through the recession that should have happened from the bad fiscal and monetary policy, they said, we can't show that. We can't have that. So we're just going to keep spending more on a headline basis. It's going to look like we're doing great. We're going to put more money into the economy and basically just devalue everybody's purchasing power. Because what happens when you create inflation is it's better for the debt holders, right? That the nominal value of all of dollars goes down. So if you're holding debt, the actual value of that is going down, on a relative basis, but it's not good for the people who are trying to earn and try to purchase. So I think that is the most likely path. Yes, if you have, a certain set of people in charge versus other people in charge, maybe you have a little bit of an opportunity for more growth. Maybe they're going to rein in spending a little bit. But as you said, they're not going to have the political will to do the difficult things. So I think that means buckle up. You're going to see a resurgence of more and more inflation. It's going to be harder for the middle and working class to get ahead. The people who are on top, who are holding the assets, the elite, the well-connected, will appear to do well because their stock holdings will increase from a numbers basis and their houses will increase from a numbers basis. And you will end up having, more of a chasm on a for non-merit-based reasons between the haves and have-nots. And I know you're a better student of history than I am, Jesse, but you know what happens when you have that huge chasm between the haves and the have-nots and what that means for social unrest. So whether we get the social unrest, just within the country, or that's something that, catches on globally, I think that's a realistic possibility. I wish I could tell you when. This could go on for, 10 months. It could go on for 5 years. It could go on for 20 years. I don't have the answer, but we can see that trajectory, and all we can do is plan, which is why I wrote You Will Own Nothing, and encourage people, if possible, to try to own something that will have the opportunity to inflate in value while you have your purchasing power continually stolen from you.
Carol, I'm glad you brought up the global consequences and global nature of this, because for better and worse, we are a global economy now. We have been for quite some time. And when you look into things historically like the Great Depression, you realize this was not an American thing. This was a worldwide thing. So who leads the world into the next depression? Do we lead it, or does the world go into it and drag us with them?
No, 100%. We're the leader. We're the world's reserve currency and trading currency. The call, unfortunately, is coming, from Washington, D.C. It's coming from inside the House. As we go, the rest of the world goes. If things happen in other countries, it may have some impact on us, but it's certainly not going to have that blowback. But the challenge is, as we implode, everybody else is going to implode. And that's why that scariness of, potential world war, to create sort of the backdrop for some, coming together and a new accord, a new financial reset, is, I hate to say it, but it is a very realistic possibility. It's not certainly one that I am hoping for or wishing for, but to say that that's not something that would be on the table, I think it is silly. I think it's also one of the reasons why you're seeing, as central banks around the world get rid of their holdings of U.S. Treasuries, they're not going into some other currency. They're not saying, oh, well, this country is a much better option, or let's go with the euro or whatnot. They're going to gold. And, that has been part of, many financial resets in the past. It is a neutral-ish reserve currency, that each of these countries are now stockpiling in different amounts. And we're seeing more and more of these countries add that to their reserves. So, that's something you need to keep an eye on. And what are they telling us? What are they signaling? What are they worried about? And it's not just lessening the dependence on the United States dollar because they don't like the United States and they're trying to stick it to us. They're really worried that if something happens, they want to be able to have something that's tangible that they can use when everybody goes and tries to divvy up the stakes, in a new financial world order, who gets what. At least they say, well, we have this pot of gold and you have this, so we all have this. Maybe we can figure out something with that.
Yeah, hard assets. How about that? Carol Roth, everybody. Appreciate you, Carol. But thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.